Hi, I'm Les from Tabletop Tastings, and today we're going to do a deep dive into the 12 different roles of Archeos Society. In the board game Archeos Society, there are 12 different decks, each deck representing a different role within the game. When playing a game, you choose 6 of those different decks, either randomly or as you choose, to build the main deck that you're playing from. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of the different roles or decks specifically to cover the abilities and how they work. Let's do it. The first role we're going to look at is the Botanist. Now the Botanist, he's trying to impress the other expedition leaders with his fancy botanical-focused expeditions. How does he do that? Well, in each round, the person who first plays the Botanist expedition immediately has the most impressive botanical expedition, and thus gains the Botanist frame. What does the Botanist frame do for you? Well, you immediately score 2 points and place that above the expedition. When the same or any other player plays another Botanist expedition, if it's the same size or larger than the one that currently has the Botanist frame, the owner of that expedition takes the frame and places it proudly over the new expedition and immediately scores 2 points. At the end of the season, whoever still holds the frame gains an additional 2 points, and the frame is then returned next to the board. Next, we have the Cartographer. And the Cartographer, they're ready to map out the world by allowing you to play 2 full expeditions. When playing an expedition with the Cartographer, if and only if you are able to advance your vehicle with the expedition, you may immediately play an additional expedition from your hand. After the expedition is fully completed, you then return any unused cards left to the display. So you get to play 2 expeditions as long as you can advance the first one, and it's led by the Cartographer. It's fantastic. Next, we have the Curator, who's a collector, really. The Curator wants to collect relics from each of the 6 different colored regions. Each player really opens their own mini museum, and they take the little museum board. The first time, and only the first time, your Curator leads an expedition at each of the different regions, take the matching relic color for that region. Over the course of the game, the goal is to try and collect one of each of the different colors over all of the seasons. If you get just a few, it's not worth very much points. But if you can get all 6 relics, that's an extra 20 points at the end of the game. Then we have the Guide. Oh, the Guide. He's a trained professional, and he knows where he's going. Because he's so skilled, he reduces the card requirement to advance at his region by 1 card. So if the Guide is your leader, you can still advance your vehicle if you have 1 fewer cards than would normally be required to advance. So if a region required 2 cards to advance your vehicle, you could do it with a single card if the Guide was your leader. And likewise, if the requirement was 6 cards, if the Guide was your leader, you could do it with just 5. Oh, the Linguist. The Linguist, they're fluent in many languages, and they add the additional Linguist track into the game. Everyone places a vehicle at the 0 spot of this track, and because of the Linguist's ability to easily communicate with people from many areas, she can help you get ahead at the other sites. When playing an expedition led by the Linguist, advance your vehicle on the Linguist track equal to your expedition size. Anytime you land on or cross one of the Linguist artifacts, you can immediately advance a vehicle at any region, and it's free. At the end of each season, whoever is furthest ahead on the track scores an additional 2 points. If multiple players are tied for the lead, they all score 2 points. It's win-win. Next, we have the Mercenary. Oh, the Mercenary. They have no interest in leading expeditions. They're just in it for the money. And they'll help whoever hires them. So what they lack in leadership skills, though, they make up for in being amazing supports. Mercenaries, they're all wild cards, and they can support any expedition regardless of the color or role to help advance your vehicles. However, it's a two-edged sword. Because they have no interest in sticking around after they've accomplished their goal, when the end of season begins, they take off. So before counting how many cards are in each expedition for scoring, remove the mercenaries from your expeditions. Is the short-term goal of having a wild card mercenary when you need to advance worth the loss of the size of your expeditions when it comes to scoring? Only you can decide. Next up, we have the Patron. The Patron, they're always willing to provide financial support to those they believe in. When the Patron leads an expedition, and after any cards are returned to the display, you can draw new cards based on the size of your expedition. So if you played a 4-card expedition led by the Patron, you can draw 4 cards from the deck. Want your picture taken? The photographer is there to help. They want to capture the spectacle of your expedition and bring added recognition to your efforts. She doesn't have any immediate effects, but helps scoring at the end of the season. Because of the added fame she brings to the dig, when scoring your expedition sizes, if the photographer is the leader, score the expedition as if it had 1 additional card. So at the end of the season, if an expedition of 3 cards had the photographer as its leader, it would score as if it were a 4-card expedition. By now, you may need a little help, and this is where the physician comes in. The physician keeps your hand nice and healthy. Normally, after an expedition is played, all remaining cards in your hand must be returned to the display area. But if the physician is your expedition leader, you may keep any number of cards in your hand up to the expedition size, and return the rest. For example, if your expedition had 2 cards and the physician was your leader, you could keep up to 2 cards in your hand, instead of having to return them all to the display. The more cards in the expedition, the more cards you can keep in your hand. Looking to travel? The pilot is here to help. The pilot, he's got a plane, and he can go anywhere. When the pilot is your expedition leader, you can advance at any of the 6 regions, as long as your expedition is large enough to meet the minimum card requirement. Great for getting around. Ready for another lesson? Well, the professor is here to help. They reward those diligent in their studies and penalize those who aren't. When setting up the game, place the 6 professor tokens next to the board. When playing an expedition led by the professor, you then take one of the tokens still available, equal to or lesser in value than the size of the expedition played. At season end, before scoring, add up all the values shown on the tokens you have. Whoever has the highest value can advance for free at any of the regions. But whoever has the lowest value, including 0, has to move a vehicle backwards on one of the tracks. In the event of a tie for first place, all those involved in the tie can move forward. And it's the same thing for last place. All those tied in last must move a vehicle backwards. And when moving backwards, you have to choose a region that you've already advanced at least 1 space on. So it's gonna hurt. Collect those tokens. And last, and 100% least, we have the student. The student is just that. They're a student, and they're still learning. As a result, when the student is the leader of an expedition, you can't advance your vehicle at any of the sites, regardless of your expedition size. They just don't have the skills needed yet to do that. So while you can still play them in your expedition as a leader, this would only add value when counting expedition sizes at the end of a season. So what does the student bring to the table? Well, there's twice as many student cards as there are anything else. So having more cards makes the game last a little bit longer and allows you to build larger expedition sizes. So that's it. That's our deep dive on the roles in Archeos Society. I hope you've enjoyed this. My name is Les. I hope I've given you a little bit more as we've done a deep dive into the roles of Archeos Society. Stay tuned for our next video, which will focus on the region locations and the basic and advanced sides of those. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.